Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead Podcast. We're your host, Lisa.
And Kevin.
And on today's episode, this is a season finale for season 5, and we are talking about endings and beginnings. Welcome to the 2 Acre Homestead. Come along with us on our journey from a small suburban homestead lifestyle to our new lifestyle, homesteading in the rural countryside of southern Arizona. We'll share with you our tips, tricks, successes, and failures from both our past suburban lifestyle to our new rural lifestyle, all on the 2 Acre Homestead. Welcome back. Glad to have you guys with us this week. We do apologize for last week. We did have to take a break because of all of the things that were going on last week. We needed to just step away from the mic and from social media. But if you do follow us on Instagram, you kind of know what this episode is going to be about already. But before we get into that, Kevin, what have you been up to recently?
Maintaining.
Yeah.
We'll get into it in a little bit here, but last week was a week.
It was.
Sometimes when you ask that, or many times when you ask that question, there's a project, there's a this, that, and the other. Because of last week, it's just maintaining.
Yes.
So nothing much to report.
Nothing new. Yeah.
How about you?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because our dog, she's getting older and she just came in here and made this funny noise. And anyway, sorry if you could hear her making these strange noises in the background. She's just a little ridiculous. But
this is an au naturel podcast, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I think she's snoring.
Anyways.
This is not good. Anyway. What have I been up to? I have, like you, just been in maintaining mode. And I've been doing some preserving, but just like you, I've really just been trying to maintain things. Just keeping everything status quo, starting to turn my attention less on the gardens, even though, this is preserving season, but less on the maintaining of the gardens and more on just preserving. And then also we have our oldest son is going to be starting first grade this year. So we're homeschooling. So I'm starting to get the curriculum together and so forth and so on. So that's kind of been my main focus.
And we're going to tag team on that.
Because math.
Yeah. Or for you Brits, because maths. I think I said that before.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's been on my radar. Do you love seafood? I do. I was raised on seafood. My dad would deep sea fish every month. And as the years have gone by, I've struggled to find that same crisp, fresh-tasting seafood. That is until now. Wild Alaskan Company brings sustainably caught fish off the coast of Alaska straight to your door. You'll get things like rockfish, halibut, coho salmon, cold smoked salmon, and so much more. So head on over to wildalaskancompany.com, and when you go to checkout, use the coupon code 2ACRE, that's TWOACRE, for $25 off your first order. So again, that's wildalaskancompany.com and use the coupon code 2ACRE for $25 off your first order. And now, back to our podcast.
Yeah, that's good. So now the topic, I think we were going to title this Endings and Beginnings. So do you want to get started on that?
So this past week, almost 2 weeks now, 2 weeks ago, as of the recording of this, we have 3 goats on our property. So we have, and they're Nigerian dwarf goats. Their names are Buttercup, Luna, and Minnie. And Buttercup, well, actually, let me go backwards. We had them, and then we sent them back to their original owners for a little bit. They came back, and when they came back to our property, Buttercup was pregnant.
Mm-hmm. For a while there, we weren't sure if Luna was also pregnant.
She was exposed, but apparently she didn't get pregnant.
Right.
But Buttercup got pregnant. And
let me just, I think we mentioned this before, but we didn't know the exact date that she became pregnant, right?
Right.
So not to diss the people that had her,
we're friends with them.
Yeah, but we didn't know the exact date, which means we didn't know the date that she would kid.
Yeah, because they run their homestead a little bit different from ours in that they let their animals breed whenever they want to breed. And so they run their goat herd where the males are always with the females. So they kind of have a live and let live approach. We take a different approach. Our intention was to breed them in November, December. And since it's a 5-month gestation period, that means they would be kidding or giving birth in April or May. And the reason behind that is that way they're giving birth when it's not so hot. And it's not so cold either. So that's a perfect time of year for the goats because it's not that bad on the females and it's not that bad on the kids.
Right, because even here we got snow. I believe it was March 1st. We had a day where it didn't stay more than a day, but we did have some snow. It was pretty cold. It was, I think, 25 or so.
We get cold here. We
Fahrenheit.
get into the teens overnight.
Right. No, that's Fahrenheit, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the backstory of what happened there. So fast forward, we kind of knew more or less when she would kid. And as the days got closer to her kidding, we were really monitoring. I mean, you could tell by her udders, and we were monitoring that. And then we were also monitoring her ligaments, the ligaments between her tail and her body. The looser those are, the closer you are to birth. And so I think it was on a Friday, I felt her ligaments back there, and they were loosey-goosey and really loose. And her udders looked like they grew by, I don't know how much, but they grew overnight. And it was like, okay, she's getting, they call it a shine on the udders where it can get really glossy. So we knew it was imminent. And so we were keeping, a close eye on her.
Close eye. And I took some time to make a kidding stall. So that was set up in enough time. So
yep.
Just in the nick of time. I think, I had it pretty much done except for the door. And so then fast forward to, so we were,
Saturday.
But basically was it the end of July, right?
Yeah, it was the last day of July. I had to think about it. Yeah, the last day of July. So, and it was Saturday and it was hot. Oh my goodness, it was hot. And came out there. We were kind of on a every 2-hour watch with her. So every 2 hours we were going out there into the barn. By this point, we knew it was real close because of her behavior. and the fact that she did not want to leave one section of the barn at all. And so we were like, okay, so we closed up the barn, preventing the other goats from coming in. We closed it up, and I went out there just for one of the 2-hour checks, and she already had everything kind of coming out, and she was starting to push. I mean, her contractions were that close. And so I ran into the house, got all my stuff, let Kevin know, let you know what's going on. You were watching the kids. And just as that was starting to happen, Nana and Tata show up. Mm-hmm. The timing couldn't have been better.
Couldn't have been better, so they could watch the kids while this happened.
Exactly. So they were inside watching the kids, and we were outside with Buttercup as she was birthing. The timing of that was just, it was unreal. I can't even get over the timing of that. But because literally as she's starting to push,
I think they were pulling in the driveway,
Nana and Tata were pulling up.
I stepped away and it said, "Don't want to be rude. Good to see you. She's having her baby. I gotta go."
Yeah,
right. Kids are inside. Yeah,
yeah, and they were all excited anyway. So they were more excited about Nana and Tata being there than anything going on. So anyway, saw the nose and the hoof coming out, and the baby came right out. So the first one that was born, we named him Junior. All white, a few moon spots, I guess you could say. But they're beige moon spots. It's really interesting. But I think he's got only 2 spots and that's it. But otherwise he's all white. And we were nervous about him at first because he was not doing good at all. He wouldn't take to the teat. And I mean, this is over a course of several hours. He wouldn't take to the teat. He wouldn't do anything. And I could feel Buttercup getting frustrated with him because of that, because he wouldn't stand. He wouldn't do anything. And I could tell she was getting frustrated. She was trying to, make him get up. But then we realized her frustration was more than just frustration. She was going into labor again. And
how soon after again?
Like an hour after, but her giving birth to the second buckling, that was 3 hours later? Mm-hmm. So.
And then at that point, I think you had stepped in the house for a few.
I had to have a break.
You needed a break. It was hot. It was, let's say, around 100 to 110. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's again Fahrenheit. But so at that point, I was actually in the barn. You were inside. And you had helped deliver Junior. So I'm out there and, we had what we needed out there. And then I think I left my phone inside, but I had my watch. So I was able to send you a quick text and say, well, second one's coming. And then here she goes, and she pops out half of the second kid. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Just, get in there and handle that warm mess, and then realized he was breached.
Yeah. He came out butt first.
So you came out, and then he was out. I'd already.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to build a homestead from the ground up? Or maybe you're looking to build an off-grid dream home, a vacation home, or maybe just a piece of land to call your own. Visit yourcheapland.com to buy rural land in the wide open spaces of southwestern United States. When you visit yourcheapland.com, they're here to help you. And with their help, you can do this. You can take your dream of owning land and make it a reality. Most down payments are only $294, including the document fee. Remember, everyone qualifies for financing at yourcheapland.com. Head on over to yourcheapland.com and start making those dreams come true. And now, back to our podcast. He had just came out because I could see you putting him down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, setting him down. So, yeah.
So then what happened next?
What happened next? I mean, she cleaned him up and he was spry and spunky and took to the teat right away. We were really worried about her because of the breech, but, because he came out butt first, and that's a lot on a female body, for the baby to come out like that. But she handled it like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is her second freshening, and she handled it well. And you could tell right away, once the second buckling was born, she was okay. She wasn't, scratching at the floor. She wasn't, like forcing them to get up. She was a little bit more back to her normal, mild-mannered buttercup self. For a goat, she's very, very, very mild. So, we wrestled with Junior for hours even after that. I think up until 8 o'clock, trying to get him on the teat, make sure he got all the colostrum that he needed. And I did wind up milking taking some of the colostrum just as a backup in case. I'm glad I did. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, doing the bottle feeding.
Mm-hmm. But Sunday was, we were really on kid watch on Sunday. We were watching Mom too, but we were really worried about the kids because, and when we say kids, we're talking about, for those of you that don't know, baby goats can be called kids. And she had 2 bucklings, or 2 boys. And, so we were really concerned about the bucklings, the kids, because we wanted to make sure that they were okay. Junior seemed like he was doing better. Spark was the second one. We named him Spark, and he was, just like all over the place. He was fine. And we never had a concern about him, but Junior was the one that we were the most worried about. I checked her udders. They seemed fine. And so I didn't have a concern about that. And I just made sure she was okay. And then I figured in my mind, I was like, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to milk her Monday. So she gave birth Saturday. Sunday, I just wanted those kids on the teat. And then Monday morning comes, and I come with all of, my bucket and everything, my little pail and everything to milk her. And I put my hands on her udder, and her udder is flaming hot. And you could feel this mass on her teat. And I knew immediately at that moment in time on the left teat, she had mastitis. So, quickly called the vet. We have a mobile vet. He came out. The soonest he could come was that evening. So I tried to milk out as much as I could. And the milk that came from that teat was the consistency of yogurt. It was really thick, really super thick. And so I just tried to milk it out, tried to get that teat nice and clear. And And then a few hours went by before I started really noticing that Spark, he really liked that left teat, and Junior liked the right teat, and it just seemed like they did not want to share a teat, but they had to, because what I did next, I thought was the wisest thing to do, and that was to close up that teat. So I taped up the teat, the left teat, the one with the mastitis, and proceeded to bottle feed Spark. And we did that up until Wednesday. Wednesday, Spark, he seemed not himself. And, don't know why. He seemed just not himself. He wasn't as energetic. In the meantime, Junior is like bouncing off the walls. The one that we were the most concerned about, he was fine. But now Spark was the one who wasn't doing so good. And so Thursday morning, we wake up to do animal chores, and I go over there to the kidding stall, and Spark is laying down. Junior was up, and, I went to open the door, and Mama tried to, Buttercup tried to go in, but she couldn't because Spark was blocking the door and he wouldn't get up. So I kind of had to push Spark out of the way. And that's when I noticed he wasn't really moving at all. He wouldn't move. And he just seemed lethargic and just something was wrong. So took him into the house because, again, we're dealing with unusual heat here in this area. It's unusually hot. So took him into the house because I didn't want him to battle heat and whatever it was he was battling. So I took him in and put him in our garden tub. From there, we contacted the vet. We contacted the vet Friday, didn't we? So we tried to nurse him back to health all throughout Thursday. And Thursday, by this time it's like midday, and I started doing some research and deeper research. And then I started figuring out that he must have floppy kid syndrome. Maybe he had too much milk. So I got him a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of water, mixed it, gave that to him. And literally when I did that, I could hear his stomach going goo, 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 goo. So, and that seemed we waited a couple hours, and that seemed to do something for him. And so then I read that you can do a second dose if you feel it's really necessary. And because he was still, it just seemed like the first dose was good because it did something. The baking soda does something to their rumen, into the acid in their stomach. And so that seemed to help him. And then, but it seemed like it wasn't enough to help him. So I gave him a little bit more. His temperature was 100.4 Celsius. Was that Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Not Celsius.
Which that would be still in the normal range.
It's a little low, but yeah. Yeah. So, and that was the other indicator to me that this might be floppy kid. So gave him the second dose, and he still was the same. No change. If anything, he was beginning to get worse. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was the dose. I don't think it was the amount of what I gave him. I think it was just, well, let me just continue with the story. So he just kept going downhill. So we contacted the vet again.
That was Friday.
And this is on Friday. Because the next day, by this point, when we woke up Friday morning, it really scared me because
he basically was laying there, not moving a whole lot.
He was paralyzed.
Yeah.
I mean, completely paralyzed. Like his neck would just flop everywhere. He had no control.
Right. You try to pick him up and see if he could stand on his own, and he would just slide down.
Yeah. He would just fall down.
Occasionally his neck would be cocked
twisted,
back and twisted. Yeah.
Twisted backwards. And we were like, whoa, this is not normal. And so the vet came out and he said, this looks like one of two things. It could be floppy kid, which he leaned more towards that. But he said it could also be botulism because the symptoms of the twisted neck and being paralyzed, lets him think that it's botulism. However, no one else in the herd, no one else that's in the barn has had a problem. And he even asked a question. He's like, because he's been in our barn, he's like, and where would the botulism come from?
Mm-hmm. And Junior, by that point, was doing fine still.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a little tank right now. That kid is funny.
Energetic.
But yeah, he's an energetic little guy. So there's no botulism that's in the barn. So, where would he have gotten it from? We don't know if that was the case. But then, he just, the vet said, well, you could continue to try to nurse him back to health. And so what I started doing is just giving him 10 milliliters of milk. And there was just still the same amount of progress, which was no progress at all. Nothing. And then by Saturday, he really declined on Saturday. And so Saturday we made the hard choice, the hard decision that we had to put him down because he was not, whatever it was, he crossed the point of no return.
We almost had done that Friday, but we both agreed. We both felt like, let's give him another chance.
Another day.
And that's where, we had called the vet and whatnot. But the next day, we both knew that was...
Yeah, we knew he was in... What
needed to happen.
And yeah, he was close to death. We knew he was in death throes. And, the body does certain things that, like, it just does certain things.
Mm-hmm. The indicators were there.
The indicators were there. So we knew it was time.
Yeah, we both agreed, and I took that step. So
yeah. And I know that was so hard for you.
Yeah. I was reflecting on that a little bit before we started recording, and I think we talked about in a previous episode when a friend of ours came and had never culled chickens before. I think one thing we said basically was you have to have a certain mindset. That's not something you look forward to. It's different in that situation when you're doing it for putting meat on your plate, for example. But in this situation, it was just a mindset. And I knew I just needed a moment, needed to kind of collect my thoughts because it's not something you'd look forward to doing. But in this situation, this was to, end the misery that he was going through and just basically taking care of what needed to be done before the inevitable. The nice thing is knowing the correct way to do it. It was quick and painless. And I think we both felt like it was the best decision.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I know so. It was the right thing to do.
It didn't take long afterwards. So, but that's one of the things we've mentioned this before. Homesteading is not all. It's not like the glam camping thing, you know. There's hard moments.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of them. But the positive is Buttercup has this spry little kid.
She does.
And she takes good care of him. It's good to see that.
Yeah.
And there have been, you know, basically daily, what we've been doing is letting her and Junior be on the grass on the other side of the pasture alone. They've, you know, she eats the grass. She loves that. But, you know, it's good to see them around and closer up to the house and doing well. And that, you know, you concentrate on that. You don't concentrate on the hard, difficult decisions and so on. But it was still a tough week, right?
It
and that
was
a tough day.
And as if this wasn't enough with Junior, what made it also additionally difficult is going back in this story. If you remember when Monday, after she had kidded, I went to milk her and she had mastitis. So the doctor, the vet, had said on Monday, he said, you know, he had told me, he says, prepare yourself because you may not be able to breed this animal ever again because the mastitis is so severe. He did say that we had caught it in time. That was the positive. But, you know, he said, let's just, you know, wait and see, but be prepared that she will always have a problem with that udder. And that was hard too, because then it raised the question of, do we keep Buttercup or do we let her go? Because the whole point and purpose of us having goats on our homestead is for the purpose of milk. And if she's not going to be producing a lot of milk, then it's, you know, better for her to find another home. And where it gets tricky is emotions are involved.
Mm-hmm.
She is definitely, you know, one of our favorite animals here on our homestead. And
cool personality.
Oh, she's got an awesome personality. She's just so laid back. I've never ever seen a goat so laid back. I mean, our other goats, Minnie is hyper. She's spastic and hyper. You know, Luna is the epitome of a goat. I mean, she is ornery, crazy. Did I say she's ornery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But Buttercup is just the complete opposite. She is just mild, easygoing, you know, does what you ask her to do. She's just a really good goat. So, and she doesn't test the fencing like the other two do. You know, one of these days, I feel like if Minnie could get traction, she would jump over the fence, but she can't, but she would if she could, you know, and Luna wouldn't be far behind, but not Buttercup. She's just like, whatever, you know. So she's an awesome goat. But anyway, so that became a really big question in our minds was, if Buttercup can't produce milk, then what do we do with her? But I'm happy to report that as of, I forgot what day it is now, as of Monday, so a week and a day after giving birth, the vet came back out just to do follow-up and tested her udders, tested her milk. And he said, you know, he goes, this is amazing. You caught it in time because, you know, she'll have some scarring. He said, for sure, in that teat. And he says, he seems to think that she will still be able to produce milk in that teat, despite the fact that she's got a little bit of scarring going on in there. that's what he's thinking, is that she's definitely going to have some scarring, but she'll be able to produce. And I have to say, I have seen Junior. Junior is drinking on both teats, and I have been able to milk that left teat as well, and it's not been a problem. So really happy about that, because that was the other part. It's like, not only was her, one of her kids dying, but then, it was like, is she, what do we do with her at the same time? And we're like, are we going to lose her too? Because her temperature, she had a really bad infection all at the same time. So it was a week.
It was a week.
Was a week.
That's why I think the title Endings and Beginnings just came to mind, because, it was tough to do that, to take, to call, Spark. But at the same time, there's a beginning, there's a new life. And isn't that what it's about on the homestead?
Yeah.
So look at the positive, and we just move forward.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And what do we learn from it?
Right.
So we got through the week.
We did. And we knew we would.
And we worked together as a team. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. So going forward, with our goat situation, we are definitely wanting to keep Junior. He is just, oh my goodness, he is the cutest thing in the world. But we definitely want to keep him. Now we're going to have to be in the market for a wether, which is a castrated male. And that way he can be a buddy, because they are herd animals. So, they don't like to be by themselves. So they like to be with the herd. So he definitely needs a buddy. But looking forward to it. Glad we are keeping him, because he can be bred to the other 2 goats. So we'll just see how all of this works. But
always
super
an adventure.
Exciting. Now, before we sign off, we posted on Instagram if you guys had any questions for us. And oddly enough, one of the questions came through not Instagram, but through our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in what we look like and what our homestead looks like, check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is The 2 Acre Homestead. And you really have to remember to put the THE, the 2 Acre Homestead. But so there was somebody that asked a question, and it was on a video that I did on making homemade cottage cheese. And the person wanted to know what I do with the rest of the liquid. So when you're making homemade cottage cheese, the way I like to do it is I like to just basically set the raw milk on the countertop for at least about 24 hours. What's going to happen is it's going to get to a gelatin state, and from a gelatinous state. And from there, you can put that on the stove and you can cook that down, and that can it'll start turning into a product like cottage cheese. It's a fermented product, but it's similar to it. And what you do is you skim off the cheese. And the gentleman wanted to know what I do with the liquid. Well, the liquid, you can do just about anything with it. You can save it. You can cook with it. You can make smoothies with it. Just like with cheese making, it's the same thing. With the whey, you can do all of the same things that you would with whey with that particular liquid. I've even been known to throw mine down the sink. Now, before anybody has a heart attack or, jumps out of their socks when I say that. Sometimes I will pour the whey down the drain, and that's with intention.
Well, we're on septic.
Right, because we're on septic.
And basically, if I know this because I've looked at the box, if you buy, there's a certain brand of septic, right? What do you call it? It basically Ridex, right? It breaks down you're supposed to put it in every month, and basically it's got wheat in there that'll help break down those enzymes.
And enzymes, yeah. And so the enzymes from the cheese making, the whey, will help break that down as well. So I really like to do that if I'm making cheese with rennet, because then I know that it's just straight rennet and it's got all the enzymes, and that can go down the drain. Sometimes I do it. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes I do. A lot of times I'll give it to our animals. The dogs absolutely love it. The chickens, everybody loves it. Everybody loves the whey.
And would you do something different if instead of using rennet when you made the cheese, you used vinegar? Right.
So I kind of hesitate to throw the batches with vinegar. Or actually, I don't use vinegar. I will use lemon juice before I use vinegar. I tend to hold back on that just because I don't know if it's disrupting anything in the septic system. I would imagine it's not, but just in case, I don't want to. And that's fine. We've got animals on property that absolutely love it.
Right. Chickens love it.
Yeah, they'll drink that down like, it's going out of style. So it works out great. And the dogs will take it too. They absolutely love it. So, and then I haven't done it myself, but I've heard that you can actually use whey in your gardens. I've not done it myself personally, so I can't speak to any personal experience, but I have heard that you can do that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's, like I said, it's a learning experience. We get to learn some things together, flex our muscles.
Yep.
Move ahead, right?
Yep. We flexed our homesteading muscles, and there you go.
And we got through another season.
We did.
Right? So we're going to take a few weeks off.
Actually, this whole month of August.
We'll be back in the month of September.
Yep. September 1st, actually.
So from all of us here to all of you out there,
happy homesteading.
And stay safe out there.
Bye. We'll see you September 1st.